So you want to know how to transcend your ego now that you're on this spiritual journey. Well, if you do, you're in the right place. This is a video that I've been contemplating for a long time, and it is one that I have experienced myself, this battle of the ego. It's one that I've talked to many people about, and I really decided to film this video because a client of mine, and now a friend, reached out to me and she asked me about this. And if you're watching, I'm sorry that it took me a couple of weeks, but I really wanted to make sure that I contemplated enough so that I could give you all some tools and just some advice to help you along the way. Okay, so if this sounds familiar, you know you're on the spiritual journey and you're discovering all this cool stuff and like you feel really good and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm healing and I feel so much better. And then out of nowhere, seemingly, like the ego comes and just tries to put you in your place. And you feel triggered and you feel grumpy and you feel irritable, and it's like these things that you thought you transcended are now coming up to the surface. And this is so normal, okay? It happens to everybody. It is part of the process, and I'm going to explain why. And then I want to go over different ways that you can transcend it. So how I'm going to do this is we're going to start with some psychological, and then we're going to get more and more spiritual as the video goes on. So by point number 3, we're going to be pretty deep in the spiritual pond, but I want to give you something to contemplate. So if you have any emotional reaction to anything I say, I encourage you to contemplate what created that emotional reaction. And that can kind of give you some insight into your own ego and your own triggers. And you might not be triggered at all, but I just wanted to say that in case you are. Okay, so the spiritual journey. I feel like many of us, all of us start the spiritual journey. Let me rephrase that. All of us start the spiritual journey because we want to eliminate pain and find pleasure. Okay, so pain might come through mental anxiety, depression, just negative thoughts, feeling bad about ourselves. Pain might come through a physical ailment. Pain might come from wanting something more. And pain might come from, if you're on the twin flame journey, being in separation or having problems in your relationship. Pleasure is what you feel like utopia is. That freedom, that peace, that love, that whole healthy body, that healthy mindset, that positive outlook. And so we find this spiritual journey, and when we first come across it, maybe it's a Louise Hay tape or Dr. Wayne Dyer or even like Tony Robbins, motivational kind of speakers, but we find it. And it's like we finally get these answers that we've been searching for our whole lives. Because those of us on a spiritual journey, we weren't able to find the answers in often traditional churches, or at least the church that we grew up in, or traditional teachings, or at least what we were taught growing up. So we were left with this yearning for more, never quite feeling like something ever resonated or ever fit. So whenever we find something, then it feels so good. Maybe we start doing meditations, guided meditations, visualizations, affirmations. It's like, yes, I feel so good. And then the ego kicks in. And I find this happens a lot, and this is part of the explanation process of why I believe it happens. For me personally, I'm an energy worker. So when somebody comes to me and they're on the table, or I work with them at a distance, if they're very new to spiritual healing, to energy healing, like maybe they've just never gotten it done in the first place, I've always, almost without a doubt, their first experience is warm and fuzzy. And that's kind of like when you first experience spirituality that resonates. It's like warm and fuzzy. And I feel like that's very, there's a reason for that. There's a divine reason for that. So we have that warm and fuzzy place. But then, once I've worked on somebody energy healing wise for a while, then they start to release things. Then after an energy healing session, they'll need to cry for 20 minutes. Then they'll have like pain, or like not pain, but they'll feel something, but they know at that point that it's something that just needs to be released and they can allow it to happen. The same with the spiritual journey. Like, you're doing the affirmations, and then once you get to a certain point, it's source is like, okay, now you're ready to really heal. We've shown you how warm and fuzzy and beautiful and fulfilling this is. Now we're ready to go in and do the healing on you that helps strip away everything that needs stripped away so that you can be your truest essence, which is that unconditionally loving place. Okay, so completely normal. 3 reasons why it happens. The first, let's start with just psychological, physiological. Our body and our mind prefer homeostasis. Our ego is not bad. Our ego is there to keep us safe. And so if you have, from a very young age, been used to thinking and feeling things that don't make you feel good, maybe it's feeling like a victim, maybe it's anger, maybe it is anxiety. If you're used to that pattern, again, from a young age, that is your homeostasis. And so when we introduce these things that differ from our homeostasis, they feel good. And even though they feel good, that good is different. It's different from the pain than you're used to experiencing. So psychologically, physiologically, your body says, no, we're out of whack. We need to go back to how we're used to feeling. So our body, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you've really kind of paid attention, the pain that you're used to experiencing it in any way that you are, whether that's negative thinking or over-analyzing or feeling bad about yourself, whatever that is, there's a comfort. There's a comfort in that. It feels natural. And it's not because that's your natural state. That's because of conditioning. It's become your homeostasis. And so when we try to get out of the homeostasis, our body tries to protect us by bringing us back to it. If you're familiar with Eckhart Tolle, he talks about the pain body. He says the pain body that we all have, most of us have, from childhood lies dormant until things are just too good. And then it needs to make itself known. The same goes on within our brains, just the chemicals in our body. We're used to feeling a certain way, and they're going to do everything they can to bring us back to that way. And there's, of course, that connection. So you might, have a gut reaction and it makes you feel fear, and then your mind creates a story around that fear, which feeds into the fear, which feeds into the mind, and it's a cycle. Or you might have a negative thought, then causes an emotion. That emotion goes back, causes a thought, and you can feel it all in your body. So it's just like that mind-body physiological connection that we have. It's very natural. Okay, so there's nothing that you're doing wrong if that happens. It's just 100% natural. Now, what can you do about it? You have a toolbox, okay? You have a toolbox full of different tools that you can use, anywhere from guided meditations to affirmations to prayers to anything that brings you out of that state. Okay, so what is going to happen, and it's natural, and I believe it happens for everybody, is your body is going to want to bring you back to homeostasis, and then you have the option to feed into that and make that stronger, that pain stronger, the negative thinking stronger by feeding into it. And you feed into it anytime you fight against it, anytime you get down on yourself about it, anytime you worry about it, because you are then going back to those old feelings. So if you have like a feeling of anger, if that's been something you've struggled with, you've been feeling good, the ego kicks up and you get angry at the ego, then the ego's like, yes, I'm doing my job. We feel angry again, yes. If you feel bad about yourself, perhaps you're used to feeling bad about yourself or feeling like you're a victim, the world's against you, and then the ego acts up and you feel the same way, the ego's like, yes, that's a victory. Like, this is good. This is good. This is what she wants. This is what he wants. Let's do more of it. So, what can you do? You have this toolbox and you just have to dig into it every single time that this happens. Whether that is you have a set of affirmations on your phone, whether that's you pop in a YouTube video just for 10 minutes, anything to like break the cycle, really, is all you're trying to do. And that's going to take energy away from that pain body and bring it back to the new. So you're kind of just retraining your mind, your emotions, your physiology to this new homeostasis. But when you've been reinforcing something for years, then it takes a little bit of time to bring it all back. Number 2 reason why your ego fights back whenever you're on the spiritual journey is because it is showing you new things that need healed. It is bringing them to light. There's a saying that my good friend David Cohen just told me. We're actually doing a weekly shift program together, so stay tuned for information about that. He told me this phrase that's a new level, a new devil. Which means every time you kind of get to a new level, Source knows that you're ready to take on something new. You're ready to see a behavior pattern, a thought pattern that has guided your behavior, guided your thinking, guided your feelings for your whole life without you even being aware, really truly aware of it. But once you get to a certain space, then you're ready. So again, the toolbox, the way that you transcend it is not to feed into it, but rather contemplate over it. Contemplate anything that triggers you. Not in a negative way, but just, why did that trigger me? What is going on that makes me feel this way? And you can do that in meditation. You can do that through journaling. For me, when I get in that state and I know I'm being triggered and I know that I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my mind. It's like I feel like the wheels are just like, but you could feel it differently. We all feel it differently. But when I do it, I journal and I get it all out. And by the end of that journaling, I'm so much clearer. It's going to be different for you. How do you do it? It's not about rumination. It's not about thinking the same thought over and over and over. It's what is going on? Who am I beneath all of this? And once you get to that place where you know who you are beneath all of it, then you can see what's going on in the surface, the pain that needs healed, what needs transcended from an observer standpoint. And things become so clear, and some things become so easy just to let go of because we understand it. So once you understand something, then you can apply that healing in whatever way that you need. You would much rather know what's going on so that you can address it in whatever way you need to address it than not know and have it continue to affect you. I know that's not fun to see these things. It's not. But then you're no longer affected by it because you can see it for exactly what it is. So how do you transcend this? Well, you transcend this, again, using that toolbox, but this goes a little deeper. You transcend this by knowing that this is something that needs healed and paying attention to how it arises in different circumstances, in different situations. You know, if it comes from like fear and doubt, you can really understand like what's beneath that. So whenever the fear and doubt comes up in a particular situation, then you're able to know that this is something that needs healed and not listen to it anymore. That's the biggest thing in this step, is not allowing it to dictate your thoughts, your feelings, and especially your behavior. So it might be scary. You might need some willpower to think differently, to act in a different way, that you're no longer listening to this piece of you. But as you do that, you are transcending it. And what I've found is the more you can act, the more you transcend it quicker. You're able to transcend it quicker. And action is always the scariest piece. But it helps you the most once you get to this level. Let's move on to number 3. What is the third reason why the ego goes crazy during this spiritual journey? And this is the one I want you to contemplate. What if everything, the good, the evil, your demons, your shadows, the devil, is all God, is all source or spirit? We know we're all connected, but we like to see things like as light and dark, and there is light and dark. But what if that dark is just as much of God as the light? What if you can see it, those negative thoughts, is just as much part of the divinity within you as your love that you have in your heart, or as those positive thoughts? Without the contrast, we wouldn't know what aligns with our soul and what doesn't. So when your ego acts up on this spiritual journey, you're able to see what darkness is and know that that's not you. Know that when you're in your light, it feels good. It feels better. Without that contrast, we would never be able to recognize that. We wouldn't be able to truly align with who we are. It's very necessary in the world that we're living in the state that we're in right now. We need the dark just as much as we need the light. And again, this is something that if it is triggering to you, I just encourage you to contemplate why. And if you disagree, that's fine. But I encourage you to contemplate what about it makes you disagree and really kind of dig deep into like what this means for you. Now, once we are truly transcended, ascended, enlightened, self-realized, whatever you want to call it, then we don't experience the contrast anymore. We've emerged 100% with the light. But until we're at that place, we need the dark. We need the dark so that we can constantly make that choice to align with what makes us feel good. Who we know we truly are, that giving person, that forgiving person, that person who wants the best for themselves, who wants the best for others. Those are things that make you feel good. Things that your ego, that dark, might try and pull you into, being selfish, being judgmental, being cruel to yourself, being cruel to others, that doesn't make you feel at peace. That doesn't make you feel good. But you need that. It's kind of like, what I'm getting the visual of is like when you go bowling and there's like bumpers on the side. You know, when you're a kid, I still like to use bumpers, but no adults ever want to use bumpers with me. But that's how I feel like. I feel like the ego is the bumper on the side. You know, you're not going to get like the ball to go down the lane. You're not going to get a strike every single time. Sometimes you're going to go to the side, but you have the bumper, and your ego is that bumper. That's like, nope, that's not you. That's not you. That might be something you picked up. That might be pain, but that's not you. So how can you then choose the light? And the way that you transcend this is basically doing everything we already talked about, going within your toolbox, doing what you know you need to do to get back in alignment. Healing what needs healed so that it no longer affects you, acting from this place of light, from this place of alignment. But truly, how you handle it in every single situation is with your divinely given willpower and choosing the light and saying, thank you. Thank you for showing that this is not me. And I know it's not me because it's frustrating, because it doesn't feel good. It's so easy to know this isn't me. Thank you for this. I know that this is part of Source, that this is a gift so that I can learn and I can realign with the oneness of who I am and the oneness of everything. And then use your willpower to choose thoughts that make you feel good, to do things, to act in ways that make you feel good, that feel like it's who you are, that's part of your soul, that's in alignment. And use all of these things that Source gave us. Use your emotions, use your thoughts, use your physiology, like how you actually feel, to determine if you are in alignment or if you're not, because you can feel it in your body. You can feel it when your mind's racing, when your heart's racing, you need a hit in the middle of your stomach. Those are your bumpers. They're not meant to hurt you. They're meant to just give you a little nudge back to where your higher self wants you to be, back to where Source, your angels, the universe wants you to be. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video and it gave you just maybe some validation, confirmation of the things that you're going through. Thank you so much for being on this journey, because the world needs us right now. It needs all the light. We need to be the light to show others who are in the darkness that they don't have to stay in the darkness. My name is Reiki. My name is Rachel. I own Reiki with Rachel. And if you want a distance energy healing session or a card reading, you can see the link below. Sending you so much love and light. Namaste.